What we're going to do now is we're going to start to lay our brick. We've pre-wet our brick already, saturated our brick by sticking them into a 5-gallon pail, holding them there for 3 to 4 seconds, feeling the bubbles all leaving. To try to help me keep the moisture rolling here. So when I lay my brick, a modern mason uses a level, a square, everything to keep these head joints lined up. These are not lined up. It's just a brick wall. We're not trying to go for cuteness here. We're trying to go for a mortar joint all the way across here and all the way across here. So if I take my level right now, this is perfectly level and I got a gap here, but I'm touching over here. We don't worry about being level. I was on a site one time on a historic building where they're relaying the corners of the building, and they were using a modern mason's technique of keeping everything perfectly as we have been taught as a new mason. So we had to tear it down and go with the lines of the building. So we don't use a level here. We can use a straight edge that connects the top of here to the top of here. And now our line comes across. Is it a straight line? Not necessarily, because no two bricks out of an old kiln are the same thickness, same length, or same width. Because if it was closer to the fire, it vitrified more. It shrank more, so it's a little bit smaller, even though they all came out of the same mold. So we're just trying to keep a straight line on top, and then we build off the next one. Straight line on top, and we build off the next one. So this mortar is a couple hours old, straight line mortar, but I've already had it mixed to what I wanted, but now we've got puddles of water. That's the excess water that I need to lay with, or squeeze back with, if that's what I was doing, that is leaving. It's satisfied the thirst of the lime. The lime is slowly swelling up, filling itself with water, but here's the excess. So this is what a mason calls knocking it up again. I can do it in the tub, or I can do it on my board that's laying underneath, but I just take it, and it's amazing how my first scoop is stiff, but as I work it, now I'm getting a nice plastic mortar again, and that's what I'm looking for. So this is a mason's trowel, but we need to call this a mason's trowel from the USA, not from Europe. In Europe, they cut the end off of their trowel, and they have more of a square nose. They do that so they don't have this excess weight as a cantilever working on my wrist all day long. So I lay my bed of mortar, I furrow it, and now I'm going to place my brick, but I have to get mortar against the head. If I just lay it on here, quite often it's going to fall off. But this wonderful suction ability to this brick versus a modern brick, it's not going anywhere. Still. So I place my brick high, I look for the joint width for my head, and then I'm going to squeeze it into place. Then I'll take the excess mortar off, which is drier now, because everything is doing its job to try to suck it dry. Frog down or frog up, I truly don't think it matters. We're going to get a shear connection or not. Here, the frogs are all down. If we over-engineer it, we'll put one frog up, one frog down, one frog up, one frog down. That is not what's holding this wall together, so we don't worry about it. Again, we butter the ends. Make sure our furrow is where we want it. We lay our brick. Let's go ahead and check our level line. I'm going to the bottom of the mortar on both sides, and both of these are a little high. Of course it is, I have yet to tamp them. If I wait too long, I'm not going to get this to move because the brick to suck the moisture out. There's no tie brick in this course, so it's just a straight course of brick on the front. And for the ease of videoing, we're trying to show how to lay the brick here. And this is a lighter colored brick than these are, so this is sucking up much more water than those were, and it's a softer brick, and it's just something that we need to keep in mind. So this is the neat, nice, and pretty lay. What goes behind me, I can lay as consistently as I want because nobody's ever going to see it. The nice part about the super soft brick is I can cut it with my trowel. If I needed a very square gauged edge, I could use a chisel, or if I had a chunk of limestone, I could square it up to a relatively close 90-degree edge. Oh no! I forgot my head joint. Well, maybe I didn't forget it. Just trying to teach you something here. Okay, so now I have these set. I like the level. This is a scooch high just by eye, but I'm looking at the thickness of the mortar joint across and I'm pretty happy with it. I'll compress this joint a little bit later as things begin to set up a little bit. Don't have to be as careful back here. So the only people that are going to see it are those people on that side of the wall, and they don't exist, so I'm pretty good. And we have an air gap here that we're trying to maintain. And those were doing a couple of things. They were keeping the wall dry. If you had a long series of wet weather, the water can't really get across the gap very well. It does fall down. It does come through at the tie bricks. But we're pretty good. And again, the whole idea of leveling, this course of brick is actually lower than this course of brick. It's even with the brick on the outer withe. So we try to look for that balance so I can still tooth these in. I can also use a mason's hammer to clean these bricks. To size. And we're good. In this case, it's relatively tight fit, so I'm going to butter on both sides. So I'm sure I get a fit. And we're good. Now, is this mortar, I don't want to call it set up because that's the wrong word. It's not going to set up. It's going to carbonate. To carbonate, we talked in the earlier series in how lime gets hard. Lime gets hard by reabsorbing the moisture. Mason's lime, that is. And it's going to absorb the carbon atoms through the air, H2O, if we wet this wall down after it begins its initial set. When the water leaves, the air goes in and we can get it to carbonate. But for full depth, it takes about an inch per year. Now, laying these 3 wides up, going from the outer surface in, we're talking 5 years until the mortar is carbonated. But it's going to be firm by the end of the day. It'll be much firmer by the end of the day. So in the actual classes that we teach, we have you build an arch. It's kind of the way we also separate the students of who knows it and who is full of it. They build an arch, and then the next morning they all get their picture taken standing on their arch that they built. So do they understand the physics behind it? And the thought process is, well, this is not hard. We can crumble it in our hands. Okay, when you stand on the beach in Lake Michigan, do you go to China? You're not. It's just sand. There's no mortar in between it. It's compacted. It's doing fine, and that's what happens here. So by tomorrow, we can put any kind of load on this wall. Once the moisture has left, once I can't do this anymore, the moisture has left. So it's a flush mortar here. It's not concaved. It's not tooled. It has a little bit of wear and tear on it. So when this firms up a little bit more, I'm going to fill these gaps using a slick. Then I'm going to dry brush this lightly. I don't want that concave look to it. I want it to look like the rest of this. And it will. It'll be very simple to do. So remember, we soaked this brick now 3 times, 5, maybe it's got so total of maybe 15 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. It is sucking it up. It's bubbling away. This is how much water that's in this bottle right now that this brick will take until it says, I'm done, I'm okay. But we're also adding the weight to the brick. And you really know it when you lift the brick dry and you lift the brick wet, when you've added this much weight to the brick itself. So what I want to demonstrate is it saturated. You can see right here within the brick how much it got wet. It is not saturated. This inner core is still trying to suck the moisture out of the outside of this brick. And the brick next to it, back here or back here, is doing the same thing, saying, come on my way. The nice part about this brick, it's an insulated material. If it has that much air void, and we're 3 wides thick, and we have a gap in between, it's a pretty nice insulated structure all on its own.